The flickering streetlights cast long, dancing shadows on the cracked sidewalks of Hollow Creek. A chilly wind howled through the old oak trees, their branches swaying like skeletal arms. For a week now, children had been disappearing. They vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void of fear and unanswered questions. The disappearances always began at the stroke of midnight, as if orchestrated by an unseen hand. The first to vanish was little Timmy Evans, last seen chasing fireflies in his backyard. Then it was Sarah Miller, snatched from her bed, her bedroom window left eerily ajar. Each disappearance chipped away at the town's facade of normalcy, revealing a dark undercurrent of terror. Among them was a young man named Daniel, a history enthusiast with a thirst for unraveling mysteries. Daniel spent most of his days in the dusty archives of the Hollow Creek Library, his mind a treasure trove of forgotten lore and ancient tales. Driven by a sense of dread and a burning desire for answers, Daniel delved into the annals of history, searching for a pattern, a clue, anything that could shed light on the terrifying events unfolding in his town. With a mix of trepidation and anticipation, Daniel reached for a weathered leather-bound volume, its pages whispering secrets from a time long forgotten. The ancient book was heavy in his hands, its leather cold and slightly damp. As he carefully turned the brittle pages, a musty odor, like that of a long-sealed tomb, wafted up to meet him. The text within was written in a language he couldn't decipher, filled with strange symbols and disturbing illustrations. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. One particular illustration caught his eye. It depicted a grotesque figure, a jester with a twisted grin, its eyes burning with an unholy light. Beneath the illustration, a caption in faded ink sent shivers down his spine. The Century Clown. Daniel's mind raced as he connected the dots. The disappearances, the ancient text, the horrifying image of the clown, it all pointed to a terrifying truth. He had stumbled upon a legend, a myth whispered in hushed tones through generations, the tale of an evil entity that returned every 17 centuries to prey on the innocent. Together, they formed a mismatched trio, united by their shared fear and a desperate hope to save their town from the clutches of an ancient evil. The old library, usually a sanctuary of quiet contemplation, buzzed with nervous energy as Daniel revealed his findings to Emily and Josh.
Here, take a look at this ancient text, the chilling illustration of the Century Clown, and the horrifying pattern of disappearances that plagued Hollow Creek every 1700 years.
This is the story of a lifetime, one that could make my career, but more importantly, one that could save our town.
A clown that appears every 17 centuries. Come on, Daniel, that's the stuff of comic books, not real life.
But as Daniel presented his evidence, the historical accounts of similar disappearances, the eerie correlation with climate disturbances, and the undeniable aura of dread that had settled over Hollow Creek, Josh felt a knot of unease tighten in his stomach. As the trio delved deeper into their investigation, the atmosphere in Hollow Creek grew heavy with foreboding. A strange stillness hung in the air, punctuated by the rustling of leaves and the distant rumble of thunder. The once familiar streets now seemed menacing, every shadow a potential hiding place for the Century Clown.
Guys, look at this. These markings. They seem to indicate a network of underground tunnels, built long ago as escape routes during wartime.
I've managed to hack into the town's historical archives.
Josh unearthed a digitized journal entry from a 19th century resident, a chilling account of a hidden chamber beneath Hollow Creek, where a demon jester was said to reside. The journal spoke of a mystical dagger, hidden within the chamber, capable of destroying the entity. Armed with flashlights, a first aid kit, and Josh's trusty array of gadgets, they pried open a manhole cover, the metallic clang echoing in the night. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something ancient and vaguely metallic. The beam of Daniel's flashlight danced across the tunnel walls, revealing grotesque murals of children being lured away by a shadowy figure with a terrifying grin. Each image seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, feeding their fear and fueling their determination. Hours seemed to crawl by as they navigated the treacherous tunnels, each turn leading them deeper into the heart of the earth. The silence was broken only by the sound of their own breathing and the rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water seeping through the cracks in the ancient stone. Suddenly the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. A cold wind whipped around them, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into absolute darkness. Panic threatened to engulf them, but Josh, his voice trembling slightly, managed to activate a backup light source. As the eerie green glow illuminated the cavern, they gasped in unison. The walls were adorned with a macabre spectacle. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of clown dolls hung from every conceivable surface, their painted smiles twisted into grotesque parodies of joy. In the center of the cavern stood a towering statue of the Century Clown, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light.
Welcome, little playthings, a voice boomed through the cavern, each word dripping with mocking amusement. You have stumbled upon my humble abode. Now, let the games begin.
A single flickering torch ignited at the far end of the cavern, casting long dancing shadows on the walls and revealing a glimpse of their tormentor. The Century Clown stood before them, its grotesque form illuminated by the flickering torchlight. Its costume, once a vibrant tapestry of color, was now a tattered and faded mockery of joy. The clown's face was a mask of malice, its painted smile stretched into a grotesque grin that revealed rows of sharp, pointed teeth. Its eyes, two glowing embers in the darkness, seemed to bore into their very souls.
Don't look at its eyes, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her heart. It feeds on your fear.
A trinket to ward off evil, the Century Clown sneered, its voice dripping with disdain. How quaint. But do you know what truly banishes the darkness, little one? Despair, hopelessness, the utter absence of belief.
The Century Clown took a step closer, its shadow stretching towards them, like a living thing. Emily stood her ground, her knuckles white as she gripped the mirror. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but she fought it back, drawing strength from the terrified faces of her friends.
We haven't come this far to be defeated by a bad joke, Daniel said, his voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor that ran through his body.
Brave words, little morsel, it sneered, its voice dripping with amusement. But words are but whispers against the storm of my power.
The shadows around the clown seemed to writhe and coil as if alive, responding to its every whim. As the Century Clown advanced, its shadow stretched out before it, a dark and menacing premonition of the terror to come. Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline, a primal instinct to fight or flee. He knew they were outmatched, outgunned, but he refused to surrender to fear. Josh, his face illuminated by the glow of his laptop screen, nodded, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He had spent the past few hours hacking into the town's power grid, searching for a weakness, a way to exploit the Century Clown's connection to the storm raging above. A surge of electricity, raw and untamed, coursed through the cavern, momentarily blinding them. The Century Clown roared in anger, its body convulsing as the power surged through it. S2, Josh, now. Emily seized the opportunity. Stepping forward, she held up the silver mirror, its surface reflecting the chaotic light show around them. The Century Clown, momentarily disoriented, turned its glowing eyes towards the mirror. For a split second their eyes met, the reflection of pure evil staring back at itself. As the dust settled and the echoes of the shattered mirror faded, a faint glow emanated from the spot where the mirror had fallen. The Century Clown, its form flickering, seemed to shrink back from the light, its mocking laughter replaced by a low growl of fear. Daniel, his heart pounding in his chest, cautiously approached the glowing fragments, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. There, amidst the shattered remnants of the mirror, lay a dagger. Its blade, crafted from a metal that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, pulsed with an energy that sent shivers down Daniel's spine. S3, the dagger.
You dare touch that which is forbidden. You would use my own power against me.
Your reign of terror ends tonight. No more children will be sacrificed to your darkness.
The Century Clown lunged at Daniel, its claws bared, its eyes burning with hatred. Daniel, wielding the dagger with a newfound confidence, sidestepped the creature's attack with a speed that surprised even himself. The dagger flashed in the dim light, leaving a trail of shimmering energy in its wake. The Century Clown roared in pain, clutching at a gash that now marred its grotesque form. The shadows that had once danced around the Century Clown like obedient pets, now recoiled, sensing the shift in power. Emily and Josh, their fear momentarily forgotten, watched in awe as Daniel battled the ancient evil. With a final desperate lunge, the Century Clown attacked, its claws aimed at Daniel's heart. And then, with a cry that echoed through the tunnels, Daniel plunged the dagger deep into the heart of the Century Clown. The Century Clown let out an earth-shattering shriek, a sound filled with agony and disbelief. Its form flickered, its physical presence dissolving like smoke on the wind. The shadows that had clung to it writhed and dissipated, vanishing into the darkness from whence they came. The cavern, once filled with an oppressive presence, felt lighter, the air cleansed. Daniel stood there panting, the dagger still clutched in his hand, as the echoes of the Century Clown's demise faded into silence. Emily and Josh rushed to Daniel's side, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and disbelief. They had faced their fears, stared into the abyss, and emerged victorious. As they made their way out of the tunnels, the first rays of dawn peeked through the cracks in the pavement above. The legend of the Century Clown would live on, passed down through generations, a cautionary tale of the darkness that lurked at the edges of reality.